with Danny Vargas, Sean Morton, and Steve Van Grant. I'm Bruce DePlate. Welcome back to the News Talk 2007 Year in Review. I don't know about you guys, it's my favorite hour of the year. And thank you for spending time with us on this January 1st. It's great to have you here. Let's talk about an issue that I know you're passionate about, Steve. In fact, it's because you've talked about this over the years that we've been doing the show that I incorporated it into our discussion today. Cheating and tragedy in the sports world. It seems like there's not that much fun right now in our fun and games. I know this concerns you.
I'm an avid sports fan, and I am just outraged. The Mitchell report only begins, I believe, to touch the surface of the magnitude of steroids in baseball. Floyd Landis losing the Tour de France, Marion Jones, tragedies with Michael Vick, tragedies with Sean Taylor. What is happening with our athletic heroes? That for some reason they're losing something, and I feel it, and I think America feels it.
Let's put aside Sean Taylor, who was a crime victim. We'll sort of set that aside and talk about the cheating aspect. It seems like it's been going on a long time, and we're just now opening our eyes to it. We've deluded ourselves for the longest of times. Don't you guys think?
I think that you know, the owners, everyone from the top to the bottom have known about this for a very long time. I think it's all about money. I think there is lots and lots of pressure on these athletes to perform. The older they get, they start seeing younger guys coming behind them, and they feel the pressure to perform and to continue to get those endorsements and the money. And I think everyone has shut their eyes to it. They closed their eyes to it until it came out, and now everyone's pretending like they knew nothing about it. And so I think that there's going to be a lot more damage done before it's out. I think we'll hear a lot more before it's over.
Because there's been a lot already.
Oh yeah, I think there's more to come.
I grew up as a sports. I love baseball, for example, and it's a shame to see this. I mean, the days of having sports heroes that were really pillars in the community and folks that could spend an entire career with a single team, and folks, the kids looked up to these folks, you know, and they still do to a certain extent. But the business of sports has taken over, as you said. I think that there's a lot of, you know, getting the ball over the fence or being the biggest tackle or whatever has got to the point where, you know, the humble nature of sports, of loving the game and actually doing it to be a role model for kids, that's sort of gone by the way, so we need to get back to that.
But what is it teaching the kids to? It's teaching them to cheat. That's what it's teaching them in order to make money.
There's a rhetorical question you have to ask. If you were a great athlete, a professional athlete, and you have a limited career of so many years, and you know that the others in your sport are using drugs, steroids, HGH, whatever it is, to improve their performance, do you say, I'm going to do it also?
Well, that's why the union doesn't have the luxury of the hard line. Because if it's the Wild West, then it's everything you say. But I want to get back to Sharon's point. Doesn't this inevitably, when it's an open secret for 10 years that players are taking substances that are near the, you know, where they're either pushing the envelope or they've crossed over the line completely, mixing my metaphors, it's going to get down to, you know, the minor leagues to the colleges, and eventually the kids are doing it in the high school weight room. So I mean,
they're doing it now in the high school weight room.
So you know, these owners and these players don't have the right to trash the game that we all refer to as the nation's pastime, and they surely don't have the right to do things when knowing they're role models that impact the health of our kids.
And it's not just the drugs either. It's also the behaviors, the characteristics. I mean, these folks still to this day are role models, and the kids look up to these folks, and they're emulating what they're doing. And we've got to be able to get back to the point where our sports heroes are folks that understand the responsibility that comes with that role model.
So how do we fix this?
I don't know how you're going to fix that, because it is starting in the high schools. It's starting in the middle schools. I mean, when they get to high school...
I didn't finish the question. How do we fix this at the pro level?
Well, I'm not sure that there's an easy solution, but there are some people out there. There's a Cal Ripken, there's a Brett Favre, there's Peyton Manning. There are athletes out there who are wonderful, who are the true role models, and they get brought down to, we need our kids to follow that lead. Those people who are great at what they do.
But you know what? Now everybody's under a cloud of suspicion. How do you know any of them weren't taking some kind
Cal
of...
Ripken and Brett Favre, you didn't make a thing of them. I would swear to that.
Okay, all right.
And God forbid we hear that any of Steve Heroes did stray. We better...
He passed out right here on the stage.
We better be there to hold his hand.
I believe it.
Okay, all right.
Talk about the Sean Taylor situation. Guy who, by all accounts, was turning his life around and was so beloved by his friends, and such an important person in the lives of his fiancée and his daughter. and in the middle of the season, he's murdered in his own home. This struck this community hard.
It was a tragedy. I mean, it was it was one of those situations where you had someone who was turning his life around, who was that bad behavior that I was talking about, he was changing, and he was actually becoming a positive role model out there, not only for his teammates, but his family and the community. So having him taken out in his prime was such a tragedy for us.
Well, the other thing, too, is it tells all of us that crime and violence can touch anybody, anytime. It doesn't matter how much money you have or where you live, that it can impact all of us. And we know that this area loves their Redskins. And I think that Sean Taylor will always be remembered. I want to express our condolences to his family. We were very, very sorry about what happened. But it does tell us that we're all vulnerable.
But I resent the reporter and the player who made comments about his past as having an effect upon this.
Yeah.
You know, that was a jump. That's part of that image of athletes. He had done nothing wrong. Mm-hmm. He had done everything right. He had reformed, and people, a few select ones, were going back to say, bad character. Does that come behind?
And who among us have not done some pretty bad things when we were young? I mean, all of us have done some things.
Is this a confession? Is this we're going to
no,
I didn't have serendipity on my agenda.
It's going to be for a great show.
Who among us can throw stones, right? We've all, and especially when you're 20 or 20s, I mean, we've all made mistakes. But
it's interesting, though, because it's a reminder to athletes that you've got to grow up more quickly. You don't have the opportunity to make your mistakes in the anonymity of your dorm room, your small town. You're on a national stage.
That's right. Everybody's watching. That's right.
He was remembered warmly by the city. Mm-hmm. I think that is true, and they appreciated who he was, what he had become, and I thought the way he was remembered was warm.
I don't want to tip my hand in terms of some of the awards we're going to do in the second half of the show, but I thought Joe Gibbs and Dan Snyder handled that whole situation so well. Mm-hmm. They helped this community heal.
Yeah, they did.
Well, it was a class act. I mean, they did it with class, but I think it also acted as a rallying cry for the whole community, for the city and for the surrounding suburbs that really, with heartfelt warmth towards this man.
And the intensity that he brought to the playing field. I mean, enormous physical gifts and intensity. I mean, that guy was on the field giving his proverbial all. You know, that's something that young athletes can take away.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and that young kids could look up to.
For sure. Right. Stand by, guys. We're going to take a break right here. When we return, which news story of 2007 was the story of the year? Who showed no class? And what was the disappointment of the year? We'll bestow our annual awards right after this.